How many times are we going to play the intro tonight? Good evening, local warriors. I'm Dana Zulik, and this is Local Wars. We're covering just all the different layers that we can, one by one, as they kind of pop up in the history of the Scenic Pit versus Village of Richfield fiasco. And yes, I do call it a fiasco. So tonight, guys, I was getting ready for this, and I maybe spent a half an hour in, I kind of feel sick to my stomach a little bit. Like, it's like I've said many times before, going back and looking at open records requests that I've done and reading emails, and there's so many. So we're just going to jump right into it tonight. Let me start off by saying this gross factor is like, I just can't even. I debated with myself about, should I, call people out or say their name? In this case, I am going to be using names. So tonight we're going to be talking about how the Village of Richfield Administrator Jim Healy is colluding with the former Mayor of Delafield, Paul Craig. We're going to do a little bit of a deep dive tonight into who Paul Craig is and exactly what are his motivations other than not respecting people's property rights. And the history here is just, it's unbelievable. So I'm going to start off by sharing a clip, some slides with you. So let's see here. Here we go. So slide 1 is just a screenshot of one of many emails that was sent to me that has attachments. These are all as a result from an open records request done from the DNR. But as you can see, it's like Village of Richfield, Jim Healy, Marilyn Craig. It just kind of goes on. I don't know. Oh, it's because I maybe clicked on that one, or you got to scroll down more. But anyways, we'll go over the one that Marilyn Craig sent. I think there's a few in there, maybe 2, and then an article where she's quoted in the Journal Sentinel. And then we're also going to be covering something similar that's quite similar to what's been happening to me here in Richfield that happened in Delafield while Paul Craig was the mayor. So just to let you know, this person, Paul Craig, lives a few doors down from me. It's my opinion that he should probably mow his grass because, I mean, it's like weeds. He says it's natural prairie. I disagree. I mean, I don't really care. I could care less what you do with your yard. It's just a little frustrating when I'm sitting here like, you're so worried about my property and what I'm doing on a daily basis. Just mow your yard. Like right now, I care a little bit. I don't actually care, but like mow your yard. Yeah. It's good for the goose. It's good for the gander, right, guys? Oh, one quick little story I wanted to share. So as you know, we've gone over the animal at large tickets and stuff. And I'm not even kidding you. Today, Courtney saw on the Next Door Neighbor app that somebody's goose was missing or something. Or no, someone found a goose. It was an adorable goose too. And the woman stops over here with the goose and is like, "Is this your goose?" And Courtney's like, "I saw that later on the Next Door app, or I saw it." Let me back up. Courtney said that earlier she had seen it on the Next Door Neighbor app, and then she thought, "I wonder if they're going to think that's Dana's goose." And Dana doesn't have any geese, and sure enough, there it was. A goose, somebody thinking that it's mine out of the how many people that live around here, but okay. So I hope that the goose finds its way home. So there's just one of many. So here's all of this correspondence going on about little old me, Scenic Pit. Let's go to the next slide. Here is an email from the DNR. Okay, so this is a string of emails. So She says, thank you for the update, Jim and Marilyn. I will follow up on the problem today. Okay, so Jim is Jim Healy. Marilyn is Marilyn Craig, who is the wife of Paul Craig, the former mayor of Delafield. Hi, Marilyn. On Friday, I reached out to the DNR regarding the mud on the road to Mr. Von Rosum. I think that's how you pronounce it. Informed me he was passing the info on to Miss Robinson. Now, keep in mind, guys, these are all public records. So those are just, public records. Okay, here we go. This is what the original text was that Jim Healy was responding to. And yes, I'm going to read it with the snark and tone that is used by Marilyn when I have interacted with her. Brooke, it is 7:45 in the morning, and I am sitting in my living room going over paperwork. The silence in my house has just been interrupted by the noise from a dump truck making its way to the dump. The truck rumbles and shifts gears as it drives up the steep hill to the pit. God, I can't. Okay. Initially, this pit used a dump road until it was being mined. Initially, there were at least 40 less houses on the irregularly shaped block where it is located, hundreds less in the surrounding area. Okay, well, first point there, Marilyn, something I would like to tell you that maybe Jim Healy, I think he might have heard. Guys, do you think he forgot to tell her that they intimidated the easement owner? Okay, well, what actually happened is we had made arrangements to use this haul road that existed when this mine was mined. And the easement owner was on board. And next thing you know, he tells us, well, I don't want to get wrapped up in the lawsuit. Basically, we had on open records requests, saw email exchanges that led us to believe that Jim Healy had actually intimidated this easement owner. And so guess what, Marilyn? We now use the roads because your group of people intimidated the easement owner that we had planned on using the easement that would put us next to 0 houses. So careful what you ask for, I guess. Initially, the sound was not a nuisance, per the old timers. Initially, questionable crud and unknown liquids were being dumped, threatening our groundwater and the Bark River. Guys, they're suckback trucks. It's called hydro excavation. I'm approved with We Energies through their environmental department, and it's clean fill. And all clean fill facilities take hydrovac. It is not unknown liquids. Initially, the pit contained stone and gravel and was not filled with asphalt, road waste, logs, or clay. Initially, this was a great neighborhood to live in, a residential neighborhood. Thanks to the dump, hundreds, if not thousands of people in this community are being forced to suffer at the hands of one irresponsible landowner. The truck left, but not without shifting of gears and a low offensive rumble. I mean, is she going for is she writing a novel? Oh, maybe she's writing a novel. Maybe she's writing a novel. I don't know. Oh, I see I have 2 comments ready. Oh, an undocumented goose. Thanks. How do I show? Oh, there we go. An undocumented goose. Yeah, I have to tell you, that's what it kind of seems like. So, we got to go back to the novel. Maybe she's writing a novel about like the pit and everything, and like maybe they'll do like a blockbuster. I'm bad. Okay, guys, the tonight's is a little triggering for me, and you'll see as we go through, because I didn't realize how disgusting this all is, and it's not even because it affects me. I'm going to show you what they did, what Paul Craig did to this little old lady who was just a pillar in her community. And her last name was Zurich. I can't even make this up. Literally, my last name is Zulik. Hers was Zurich. And so we'll go over that case tonight. We're getting to it. So 3 more have since taken its place, one with squeaky brakes and shifting of gears. Hopefully, where you live, you will never be forced to be subjected to the continuous visual and auditory nuisance those in this neighborhood and community are subjected to on a daily basis. Marilyn Craig. Okay. Let's go on to we're going to cover a few things. Now, Marilyn is the one who actually, if you guys don't remember, she stopped one of the dump trucks in the road and told them they literally weren't allowed on the road, even though she had no legal authority. It's kind of dangerous to step out in front of a dump truck. The dump truck driver was shook up by it. The whole thing was just a fiasco. It's just insanity. Okay. Let's see what the next slide is. Okay, now I'm going to play a audio recording of a voicemail that was left by Paul to Jim Healy, and it speaks for itself. I probably won't even interrupt it. We're just going to go ahead and let it speak for itself. See if I do this correctly.
Hey, Jim, Paul Craig, 501 Scenic. First of all, I want to congratulate the Scenic Pit. Her dirt has now reached the road down past our corner. It's just unacceptable. I don't understand. I'm beyond words. Next subject. Been watching and monitoring agendas. You said that there were going to be special meetings dealing with her. I haven't seen any, and then I saw an item on tomorrow's meeting about Brownfield's coalition. Very concerning on this project. Give me a call. I'd like to hear your spin on it. But again, there's no erosion control, no dust control, no dirt control, no animal control, no nothing control with this lady. And I want to know, you said wait, you were dealing with it, so I've waited. Now I guess I'm not going to wait anymore. We're going to start cranking it up if we're not going to get some satisfaction. Enough rambling. 262-993-47.
Oh, okay. Don't call. Let's just pretend that didn't happen. I'll make sure to block that out next time. But I mean, his number is published on the village website, anyways, because he's involved with the Lions Club. So I wonder how much do you think it would cost to be one of the good old boys? Is it gals too? Like how do I get the ticket to be one of the good old boys? How do I get special meetings with you, Jim Healy? I think he said special meetings. Let's listen to that again. I got to hear that again. It's so crazy.
Hey, Jim, Paul Craig, 501 Scenic. First of all, I want to congratulate the Scenic Pit. Her dirt has now reached the road down past our corner. It's just unacceptable.
Okay, so in my defense, I do want to tell you that there was another house being worked on, and they had just put down gravel. Sorry, Paul, I don't think it actually was from my trucks, but even if it was, I mean, really, bruh. Okay.
Well, I don't understand. I'm beyond words. Next subject. Been watching and monitoring agendas. You said that there were going to be special meetings dealing with her.
Yeah, special meetings dealing with her.
I saw an item on tomorrow's meeting about Brownfield's coalition.
Special meetings dealing with her. I mean, it's like these things are happening. Thank you. My mom made a comment that says, I believe your dirt. Well, here, I believe your dirt reached the appellate court. True. The appellate court did rule in our favor. They made all these arguments before operations ever even started. So basically, they're doing this fulfilled prophecy thing in their minds. They're, if you're a hammer, you always see a nail. Is that how the saying goes? Like, the hammer always sees a nail because it's a hammer. So everything looks like a nail to it. And that's what I feel like is going on here is they just are finding evidence that supports what they said was going to already be a problem. And if you want to talk about accountability, Paul and Marilyn, let's talk about accountability for the things that you're participating in that are trying to disrupt the operation of my business. And I take that very seriously. I mean, it took me a while to figure out what was going on. And then there's such a voluminous amount of things. Where does one begin? I've had to gather up all of my resources and put them where they belong, in the best interest of my family. And, you know, this is the most time, literally, that I have spent going through all of this because I don't enjoy going through it. But it needs to be talked about. It needs to be exposed. And it's behavior like this with governments in too much power, doing the bidding of a few people. And in this case, that's Paul Craig, who is the former mayor of Delafield, asking when the special meetings are to deal with this lady. Gross. Absolutely gross. Okay, let's go back to the... I kind of like that view. Okay, so let's get into when Paul Craig was the mayor of Delafield. Okay, so this article is dated, let me make it a little bit bigger. This article is dated March 28th of 2005. A dam built in the 1850s by a man whose inn was a stop for slaves seeking freedom on the Underground Railroad has become the focus of a muddy dispute. So now we even have mud involved. Okay. So what do we have in common? We have Paul Craig interfering with my business that involves mud, and Paul Craig interfering with this poor little old lady who owned a dam. Okay. Its owner has proposed abandoning it, but 9 other property owners around the 18-acre mill pond created by the dam on the Bark River, oh, there's another common part, Bark River, are backing the city of Delafield's proposal to buy the dam, repair it, and possibly use it to generate electricity. Sounds like it's harmless, right? I mean, until we get to the rest of it. When I learned this story, guys, I was like, what planet am I living on? Mayor Paul Craig, who lives now 3 doors down from me, who needs to mow his yard, is also hoping to preserve the history of the dam, originally built by Nelson P. Hawks to power a mill. Hawks ran an inn down the road whose basement was a stop for slaves fleeing north to Canada for freedom. So it sounds like a very historical site. But here's the thing. It's not owned by the government. It's owned by a private citizen. Dam owner Margaret Zurich says she wants to keep living at the former mill, despite applying to abandon the dam with the State Department of Natural Resources last fall after repair costs became too burdensome. The department regulates her license for the structure. If no agreement is reached, the Common Council could follow through on its recent vote to use the power of eminent domain and take over the property, including Zurich's home. I am terribly upset over this business, Zurich said. Zurich stopped operating the dam 2 years ago because some cement fell and washed into the turbine. She and her late husband, Kenneth, had previously used the dam to generate electricity, which they sold to a power utility. Zurich stopped operating the dam 2 years. Oh, I read that already. They think they can generate electricity, she said. They can't generate any more than I can. The mayor has said the city would find Zurich new accommodations and assist with relocating her if it takes over the facility. Well, this woman has lived am I like, guys, am I reading this incorrectly? Please tell me I'm misinterpreting it. Please tell me that maybe I'm the hammer looking for the I'm trying to use as much critical thinking as I can. And I can't understand this. So this woman owns this dam and it's failing, and she just wants to get rid of the dam. She wants to stay in her home. She wants to stay where she lives. She doesn't want to be bothered. And the former mayor of Delafield, Paul Craig, who now is trying to run me out of town here in Richfield, tells her that they can find her accommodations and assist with relocating her if it takes over the facility. No. I mean, we're not in the middle of this like big city that's like, let's just keep reading. Brent Binder, a DNR dam safety engineer, said Zurich's application to abandon the dam is on hold while the city tries to buy the property. Step one is for the city and Margaret to communicate and work things out, he said. The city has also requested proposals from engineers to study the dam and the upstream fish hatchery dam, which is owned by the city and also needs repairs. A memo by City Administrator Matt Carlson put the cost of temporary repairs of Zurich's dam at $100,000 and full repairs at $500,000. Residents who oppose removing the dam said it could send silt from the pond bottom into Upper Nababin? I don't know how to pronounce that. Nababin Lake, and decrease their property values. Many use the mill pond for recreational activities, from fishing to ice hockey and kayaking. Well, but the dam that creates it is not yours. It's hers. Okay. It's a favorite gathering spot for young children, said neighbor. And then this other neighbor said he's totally for it. Okay. Interesting. Well, let's talk about who this woman is, okay? Who is this Margaret Zurich? Guys, like, I was reading this about her and I'm like, this woman is so accomplished. She's a strong woman. And they did this terrible thing to her. I remember hearing about this story when I first heard about it. I read this article, and I'll have to find it for you guys, but from just off the top of my head, I remember she said something to the board when they said they would relocate her, and they're like, "Oh, we'll put you up in a nice nursing home." And she's like, "Over my dead body." But spoiler alert, I am going to let everybody know this woman won. Guys, she fought. She fought and she won. She won. Okay. So let's read about Margaret. This is, I'm assuming, her obituary, but listen to how amazing this woman is. Born in 1920, passed away May 11th of 2018. Lake Country lost one of its most civic-minded citizens on May 11th of 2018 with the passing of Margaret Huddleston Zurich at age 98. A resident of Delafield for 51 years, Margaret was an avid historian of the local area, in large part due to her ownership of the historic mill site at the south end of Mill Road, and she served as a valuable resource to city government over many years. Her civic work also took her to the White House in November of 2014, where she was feted by President Obama for her 25-year quest to successfully convince Congress to pass legislation authorizing award of the only posthumous Medal of Honor to a Civil War veteran, Army First Lieutenant Alonzo H. Cushing of Delafield. Cushing's father once owned the mill site on which Margaret lived. Margaret was born in on February of 1920 in Wabasha, Minnesota. Sorry if I'm pronouncing anything wrong. And received much of her college education in Wisconsin, attending Northland College. See here. Okay, in Ashland for 3 years. In the summers, she worked as a med tech at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. During World War II, Margaret left college and worked as a medical technician for 3 years. I need to get a studio that's soundproof because dogs be barking. Barky dogs that want to bark. Okay. So this woman, what? Like, she's going to the White House and getting Medal of Honor for a Civil War hero and worked at the Mayo Clinic during World War II. Like, what? This woman's like my hero. This woman's amazing. Okay, let's keep going. Like, she is like, I'm speechless. I'm really speechless. Okay. The Rotts moved to Washington State, and Margaret finished her undergraduate studies at the University of Washington, earning a Bachelor of Science in Biology and Anthropology. While living in, oh man, these names are killing me. Suquamish, and later in Sandy Hook, Washington, Margaret greatly enjoyed sailing. In 1963, Margaret moved back to Wisconsin and began to pursue graduate studies at UW-Madison. Then she relocated to New York City for 3 years, continuing her postgraduate study there at Columbia University. Following her time in New York, she moved back to Wisconsin in 1967, settling in Delafield at the Old Mill property with her second husband, Kenneth, for the remainder of her life. And they were trying to take her property. They should make a statue of this woman. Like, this woman should be like, there should be a statue of Margaret Zurich in Delafield. Like, legit. No, not according to Mayor Paul Craig. Former Mayor Paul Craig. He wants her out of there so other people can enjoy the fruits of her dam's pond. Or this is crazy. This is crazy. Okay. They talk about her memorial service. Okay. So yeah, so here's this woman who spent her life like doing these amazing things. And Paul Craig is like, man, we don't want you there. And we're gonna, like, whatever happened to property rights and the government? Like, how? I don't even understand how it's possible that they could. I'm speechless, guys. For once, speechless. Like, here's what I have to say about that. There's so many common things going on here. The first being that Paul Craig is involved at all. And then you've got these voluminous communications between him and Jim Healy. It's like constant. Like, I played you the recording. There's all these other emails. Oh, sure, I'll get back to them, and people are trying to make it sound like there's all these, like, it's so frustrating. It's really, really frustrating. I remember one day Marilyn Craig was walking down the road, and she's like on the shoulder and she's recording me. So I stop her and I'm like, so I start recording her and I'm like, where's my phone? I'm like, and I said, well, may I ask what you're doing? Well, I'm recording you. I said, oh, well, is there something I can help you with? Like, why? Well, my husband said if I come this way, I should record it because you might accuse me of doing something wrong. So I said, well, are you doing something wrong? What? Oh, it's exhausting. I feel exhausted already. Like, we're only 30 minutes into this. And literally, I only looked up information for like 20 minutes and I'm mentally exhausted. Like, oh, I feel bad for little Margaret Zurich. Like, I want to be her friend. One of my good buddies actually did a lot of work at her property and knew her for years and years. And he said she was just a tough old bird. Like, she was just amazing. And gosh, until tonight, I didn't know how amazing she really was. I mean, I thought she was amazing just because, like, the picture I got from reading this article years back was like they wheeled her in basically, and there's these boards, and they're like, "You need to move. We're gonna put you up in a nice in a nice little, nursing home where you can live peacefully. Well, we just benefit from your property, And she didn't let him, and she won. And man, what an inspiration. Margaret, you have inspired me. And you know what? Going back to when I go back and forth about whether or not to share names, it's fine. He was a public figure. They have been so public about their opinion. It's nothing that they haven't told the whole community already. So I'm just telling you my perspective and what I see here. And what I see here is a bunch of good old boys patting each other on the back. A lot of pressure going on to government officials, the government's folding to the officials folding to that pressure and passing the buck along. Let me tell you, I don't like to complain about things unless I tell you the solution on how I think it should have happened. When Marilyn or Paul Craig reached out to Jim Healy, Jim Healy's response should not have been another email to Brooke. The response should have been, please contact the DNR. I am not the regulatory authority per the decision of the Court of Appeals in Scenic Pit, LLC versus the Village of Richfield. This has already been adjudicated. None of us agree with the decision of the court, but guess what? As a local official, I am obligated by my oath of office to uphold the Constitution and follow the judicial branch of government as interpreted by the legislative branch. And yes, I did lecture Jim Healy about that before. Because I feel like that's something he's forgetting, right? So it's just constant and constant. I don't even know if I want to show more, but I'm going to. Let's look at one more article. I think I can handle one more article for tonight, and then I might just end this episode. And for the replay crew, please like and subscribe because it really does help get the message out about local corruption and what it actually looks like, the behind the scenes, let's talk about dirt and mud and ugly. Let's talk about the behavior of the local government colluding with very special neighbors. And let's talk about that. So let's go to this next article. It's a fun one, guys. Okay, so the title of this, it was front page of the Journal Sentinel on August 3rd of 2018, and the title of the entire article is actually Marilyn Craig's dramatic quote, "My paradise has turned into my early grave." Let's see what she says down here. While they have lost the battle, Scenic Pit's opponents haven't conceded the war. Even the news sees it. I mean, the village is working to find a new issue to appeal and pressing the Department of Natural Resources to keep an extra tight rein on the business. Neighbors continue to file complaints about traffic, dust, or noise, dirt, and suspicious loads of material. Some have followed the trucks to job sites where they pick up material and videotape the loads, transports, and unloads at Scenic Pit. I'll leave her out of it. Oh, I'm going to leave her out of it for this one. If you want to pause and read what that woman had to say, then go for it. I will talk about Scott Clough. He has lived in the area 26 years and fully supports the village, taking every possible step to shut down the pit, which he hears all the time from his home just west of there. Scott, I'm really sorry that, buddy, sorry that like my private property is no longer your public playground. Like, that's a bummer. Remember when you tried to run me off the road? Threw an empty beer can in my vehicle while I was in it. I think you even threw a flyer and hit Jeff Gagnon in the head. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, I'm sure you have a lot to say. Close said neighbors are frustrated that their legislators, Governor Scott Walker and the stripped down DNR can't do more. And what I want you to know, guys, is that not only was Governor Scott Walker and the stripped down DNR, according to Clough, not only were they not going to do more to stop this, but the Department of Justice literally had 3 cases sitting on their desk that they were getting ready to write amicus briefs for, and they took my position of this issue. So this whole thing from the very beginning was just a let's bully her and get her to leave. It had nothing to do with basis in law. We're just looking for some justice. Well, you know what the justice is? The justice is the law was made this way. You know, oh, here we go. People in shock and disbelief that one person can step on everyone else, he said. We're just looking for some justice. I don't think one person is stepping on everyone else. I think that I could put so many really super respected people up on a stand in a trial that would vehemently disagree with that. I have been the only one that's been extending the olive branch, asking the community, you know, what can we do to work together? And that was something that these people were not willing to do. So Village Administrator Jim Healy said the court ruling has broken new, disturbing ground for local governments faced with projects like what he calls the ironically named Scenic Pit. So Jim Healy, this shows right here, you're either lying or you're incompetent. Like, the court ruling did not break new, disturbing ground for local governments. It was well-settled case law, and the facts were so identical that all our case did was reaffirm it. Like, there was nothing that was groundbreaking. It was ground settling. You like that pun? You like it? But yeah, so this court ruling has broken new disturbing ground for local governments faced with projects like what he calls the ironically named Scenic Pit. Well, unfortunately, he might have to do a little more study on what the home rule is, or maybe he could go back to my episode on home rule. We kind of took a deep dive into that and talked about the DeRosso landfill versus the city of Oak Creek case, which is where the state has said that clean fill facilities are necessary for the health and safety, and they're needed. They're needed in communities. And if we allow local governments to regulate them, we wouldn't have any. So, as much as Jim Healy wants to believe that this ruling has broken new disturbing ground, it in fact, you're incorrect, sir. It is, in fact, well-settled case law. So either John Macy lied to you as well, or you're incompetent and don't understand what the case is. And I can't help you with that. The law was never meant to allow a new business to run in perpetuity, he said. It's mostly to help state highway projects for a set duration, not for someone who would open for 2.5 million yards of fill for over a decade. So Jim Healy must be the legislature. Is he a lawmaker? Sir, stay in your lane. You're the executive branch of government. How do you know what it was meant to do? The law is statute. It's chapter 289, solid waste and hazardous waste facilities. It's listed in there, and it is a statewide concern. Literally, lawmakers in the state of Wisconsin have said that you are not trustworthy to regulate sites like this for this exact reason. Like, literally, you are the poster child for why this case exists, or the law exists the way it is. Like, what you're doing to me and my family is exactly why this law was written to prevent. And it's taken me 10 years and starting a YouTube channel to just get this word out, just to raise awareness and say, guys, look, don't let your local government just tell you lies, and don't just gobble up the lies. You don't have to like the Scenic Pit. You don't have to like the decision. You don't have to agree with the decision, but you're not allowed to just constantly harass just to make somebody go away. It's corruption. Jim Healy and Paul Craig, in my opinion, are colluding to stop the Scenic Pit. And we're going to go over a 4-page memorandum. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow or the next day. And I'll show you how Paul Craig and Jim Healy worked with a local developer and tried to, on my first job that I got here, tried to literally trick me into taking clean fill, or not clean fill, because we want clean fill, contaminated fill. It didn't work. But yes, it's hard for me to even say that out loud. It's unbelievable. I really appreciate everybody joining me for these types of episodes. This one tonight was quite triggering for me. It's angering, you know, like when I had my mom on last night, and that was so fun. I'm looking forward to the next time we can have my mom back on. But one of the things that we talked about last night is that this channel is helping me so much verbally process, because I'm a verbal processor, and a lot of what's happened, it's like I don't feel like it's all being pent up inside of me anymore, and I feel like I actually have an outlet. And even if there's only a few views, you know, that we got to start somewhere. And I don't plan on taking these down. I'm not defaming anybody. I'm not, you know, saying anything that isn't untrue. I'm simply exposing that perhaps, like, I'm challenging the viewers, especially if you live here in Richfield. Look deeper into local controversies and what's going on, because I promise you, the narrative that's being sold to you by local officials, like, there's good ones out there. Don't get me wrong. There are communities that I think have very solid representation. But when you live in one where it's corrupt, and I don't even know if the people on the board know they're corrupt. I mean, like, I don't think Jim Healy sits around and is like, hey, I'm a corrupt person. I think he looks at it like, well, it's what's good in the end or something like that. But no, you're not allowed to do what you're doing. Zulik said she's disappointed but not surprised at the continued antagonism toward her business. She said the first loads began rolling in at the end of March, and she's had varying rates of traffic into the pit ever since, from excavations at building projects in Milwaukee, Wauwatosa, Menominee Falls, and Germantown. So this kind of just went on. Too many layers to get into. Ooh. So I'm going to go ahead and do an outro tonight. You know, I hope, I know it wasn't as bubbly and funny as like maybe I would like to be on this channel. It was a rough topic, but what I'll do is I'll see if I can get this video to play, and then it'll be the outro video of the Local Wars theme song. And we'll go ahead and just end it there. Let me see if I can make this bigger. We might have to watch. Here we go. Well, my name is Dana Zulik, and in 2014, I was in the market for property. I was looking for different places to have horses, and long story short, I found this property. It was for sale. I went to the village hall and I asked them, you know, would I be able to take clean fill in order to restore it? Because I'm not interested in mining it, but part of the ordinance said that it was for continuing reclamation because it had been abandoned. Oh yeah, that's what's in our comprehensive plan. That's exactly what we want. And unbeknownst to us, the village was working behind closed doors to come up with a plan to keep us from reclaiming the property, because they didn't agree with how we wanted to reclaim it by using clean fill. Basically, clean fill on different construction sites, pretty much any construction, fill has to come out and then it has to go somewhere. And what better place than an abandoned quarry that needs it? So the plan, the dream, I guess you could say, this the fill area is going to be open horse pasture. And then we're going to have, you know, stables, riding barn. My dream is to help veterans. Being a veteran myself, you know, animals have helped me tremendously. I just would like to see more people be helped. The plums are almost ripe.
But that's a pretty rooster over here. Do you think the pears are done yet?
I have felt since the beginning that it's been a waste of taxpayer money. It's cost our family far too much money, but I didn't feel that just because they didn't want the project to happen was a good enough reason to give up.
What do you hope happens?
What I hope happens is that the Wisconsin Supreme Court agrees with the Court of Appeals.
And they did.
That the circuit court's decision was wrong and that we can fill our site. The Court of Appeals said no local approvals apply, dot, end of story, dot. That's my favorite part.
So at least that ended on a little bit of a friendly note. So thank you for joining me tonight. And if you have any topics, or just leave it in the comments and I'll get back to it. To the replay crew, please like and subscribe and share with your friends so that we can get the message out. And you all have a wonderful evening. And I love each and every single one of you, whether you believe me or not. Good night.